There's a lot to say about the book that I won't say now. I want to say that it is a non-profit project, which means that all the revenues from copies sold will go to further reprints of the book, because the goal of the book is its own mission, and the mission of the book is to make available to civilian Americans like myself and like Jeb the personal stories of men and women who have served in our recent in the military in recent years. We think that's an important and even urgent task, and as civilians we think that's what, Jeb and I think that's what we can do to serve those who serve, and my job as publisher is to serve those who serve those who serve, and that's Jeb. I want to make a point on the note of the nonprofit aspect of this project. I want to make a point of thanking the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, Peter and Jessica and their colleagues. You were given your books this morning courtesy of the WDVA who purchased these copies, and the revenue from that purchase is really the first. This book is just published a few days ago, and the revenue from those purchases is really the first really pretty substantial step towards printing more copies and disseminating those. So thank you to Peter and to everyone. Jeb Wyman has been spent 3 years gave 3 years of his life to putting this book together. It started as an idea. He teaches writing at Seattle Central College. Some of his students were coming to him with stories, written assignments for class that told of their military service, and that piqued his interest, and he said, there's a book here. And he came to me, and 3 years later, here we are. Thanks to all of you for taking an interest, and for the kind words many of you have had for the book today. And many, many thanks to Jeb, who's in turn going to introduce Brandon Metalis, who's one of the veterans in the book.
The main event, of course, is the Telling Project, so I'll be quite brief, because I do want to give Brandon a chance to talk to you. I also want to thank Peter Schmidt, whom I met in the Aloha Cafe for the first time. That's a small, very nondescript, very humble little establishment near Edmonds Community College. And it ended up being kind of a special place for me. I had a number of life-changing meetings there, including with the man behind me, Brandon Metalis, who I'm going to introduce here in just a second. Peter was my mentor. He placed faith, and the result is what you've all received today. It is hot off the press. I just saw the book for the first time on Saturday night. Each of the veterans, there's 18, there's 17 who are still with us right now. Each of them received a box of books. 3 of them, within 24 hours, said, "I need more books. I've already given away all my books. I need more. Can I have more, please?" And that's not just telling the story, but sharing the story. One of those veterans was Robin Eckstein. She is the third story. And she said she read her book. She'd read her story a number of times, of course. When she read it in the book, she had quite a powerful emotional reaction to it and wasn't sure whether it was a good idea for other people. And then she said, "Why do I have to carry this story alone? Other people should share the burden of this story, carry this story with me." And that's a lot what storytelling is about, and what you're going to hear tonight from the Telling Project. Us 99% of civilians, it's our responsibility to help carry those stories. Veterans do not need to carry and should not carry those stories by themselves. I met Brandon at the Aloha Cafe, as I said. I had met his mother, and she'd known I was doing this project. She said, "You should talk to my son Brandon." And I met him, and for 3 hours, he's a very articulate individual, and he spoke straight for 3 hours, and would have been longer, but the place closed, and we got kicked out, and he kept talking in the parking lot. And I looked up, and his armpits were soaked with sweat. And he got his story out. His story is the concluding story in the collection. So I'm going to let Brandon speak for himself to you. He's an amazing individual. This is Brandon Metalis.
for clapping before you even hear me speak. That's great. So like Jeb said, I've been working with him. Am I too close or too far? Am I good? Good. All right. I don't like microphones. But I've been working with Jeb for about 3 years now. The experience has been transformative, to say the least. Like he said, we sat for 3 hours, and we probably could have sat for 10 more, because my story has quite a bit of depth. Not going to get into my story at all, that's in the book. Yeah, the process has been absolutely amazing for me. It's opened up opportunities for me to speak to crowds of veterans, crowds of civilians, crowds of high school kids, which is kind of right up my alley a little bit because I coach soccer for a living now. So I received my case of books on Friday when I got home from my game that day at a soccer tournament in Redmond, and kind of waited for my roommates to leave and silenced my phone, turned off the TV, and selfishly sat down and read my own chapter. I hadn't read like the very final revision until the book arrived. I had obviously suggested my edits and off the record stuff and whatnot, but Friday was the first time that I read it, and I read my chapter, I read my section of the Where They Are Now, and then I read Jeb's words in his afterword, and I couldn't move afterwards. For about 30 minutes I was completely paralyzed. Like, I kept telling myself to stand up and go grab a glass of water or take my dog outside, and the brain connection to the rest of my body just wasn't seeming to be there. I think for me it's the power of having told the story, and then having read the story, and then having realized that other people whom I will never meet are also going to know some of the most intimate details of my life. But in terms of telling the story itself, it's one of the things that has saved my life and kept me from being a statistic. It's been incredibly rewarding to share. For many, many, many years, everything was internalized, and even friends and family of the closest variety had no idea exactly what was going on within myself. And then I started to get tattooed, and all these tattoos are my story. All different little aspects of it, different parts of the timeline, and people asking about the helicopter on my arm with a date, January 26th, 2005. They're like, "What's that?" And I say, "It's the worst day of my life, let me tell you about it." And those conversations and working with Jeb on this project is one of the big reasons that I'm still here and that I'm here to talk to you right now. So the reason I signed on to, metaphorically, the reason I signed on to this project was I saw the potential to help people. And without Jeb's vision and Jeb's dedication to this book, and Ethan and everybody involved, the other veterans as well, who knows, the countless number of lives that can be touched by sharing and reading these stories could have been eliminated completely without the vision. And so, while I can only take credit in living my experiences and then talking about them, people like Jeb are really the reason that we're here, that there's a platform for stories to be shared and lives to hopefully be positively affected. So I think that's about it, the end. Don't get my sweaty bits.
I'm sweaty too.
So as you know, working with veterans can be heavy sometimes. That's why we have this arranged this way. There's tables and chairs outside so you can enjoy our beautiful river if you'd like. We have an amazing story project coming up, the Telling Project, okay? John, could you raise your hand? We have the superior cook back there, John, and his team working on the food. And thank you so much. He made it extremely affordable because it's very vet friendly. And thank you so much for doing that. So if you do want to socialize, that's the whole point of this event, just make sure that you're kind of on the outskirts of some of this piece of things. Pybus has many restaurants to enjoy if you'd like. If the meatballs and all the other stuff doesn't quite fill you up, and we'll just after the Telling Project, we're just going to get to some music and continue to socialize. So please stick around and let's pass some cards around and introduce our next guest, Max. Thanks.